Well, good evening, Internets. It's me, DP Knudten, for another edition of Bookward Bound, my 301-day journey from I should really do this to done. And what is that done? That done is the creation of a brand new book by January 1st, 2021. And actually, it's going to be the uploading of press-ready PDF files to Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing platform. That's what I wanted to say. Because I'm going to be self-publishing a brand new book that looks a little something like this. It's called NONFICTION BRAND, Discovering, Crafting, and Communicating the Completely True, Completely You brand you already are. Yep, that's what it's all about, and that's what tonight is about too. I'm going to be actually writing the book in real time in front of you, or actually writing might be an overstatement because some nights I design, some nights I outline, some nights I edit, some nights I just do a little bit of cleanup, and some nights I actually write. So tonight, what am I going to be doing? Well, I'm going to be going over to the application I use to actually write this book called Scrivener. Okay, so Scrivener looks a little something like this. Right over here. So you can see Scrivener. Right here's the main window where you actually write the book. And then over here is the individual sections within the book. Oh, come on. I don't want to mess with that. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Anyway, I accidentally moved one of my sections around, which is actually a problem with Scrivener, if you ask me. It's a little too easy to accidentally move these things around. When all I wanted to do was this, I actually moved one of the written sections around. So, I have been working on a section called, or actually it's about an individual named Leah Bach. And I've actually got a fair amount of stuff done already. I've got, if you look down at the bottom, 1,314 words. If I click on this, it gives me the various statistics, 86 sentences, average paragraph length is 65 words, average sentence length is 15. And the funny thing is, now that I've done this enough, looking at the stats on my book, I've actually found out that I am remarkably consistent in writing 15-word sentences, plus or minus 1 or 2 words. That's incredibly consistent. But every time I've checked my stats, that's what it reveals. 15-word sentences and typically paragraphs of about... how many average paragraph length? 65 words. That's not unusual. A lot of them are around 75 words-ish. So I would say that this average might be a little low, but for the most part, I like average paragraphs that look about this length right here. Like if we take a look at this one, it'll give me an instant tally and say that's a 126-word paragraph. If I look at this one, which is actually a quote from one of my podcasts, that's 113. But I've got to have some significantly, they consider this a paragraph. So that skews my my actual number. Anyway, I'm writing this section about Leah Bach, and tomorrow I'm going to be editing the second half podcast with Leah. And consequently, I'm going to leave some room in this section for some of the stuff we talked about in that second half episode. When I do my podcast, I invite a guest on, and I have them for an hour. During that hour, around the half-hour mark, I will automatically go into an outro for the podcast. We'll pause for a second, and then we'll go right into the next podcast seamlessly. Now, to you, the person who might be subscribing to the podcast, it's actually week 1 and then week 2. There's a week between the two podcasts. So In this case, I'm going to be editing Leah's second podcast tomorrow, and I'm going to be remembering a lot of the things we talked about because we actually did this session probably about 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to remember stuff that I want to include in the book. So right now, I think I'm actually not going to write anything. And I'll be honest with you, frankly, tonight, I'm just keeping the streak alive. I don't know if there's anything I want to really do tonight because tomorrow I'll be doing the podcast editing, coming up with some of the new things that we've talked about during the podcast, and I'll plug them in here. But until then, do I really want to add anything? I don't think so. But here's the reality of what I'm doing. On March 5th, a Friday, 2 days after I got back from Social Media Marketing World, I decided that I was going to write a new book by doing a live stream every single night. And if I'm not mistaken, this is day 118. That's right, 118 consecutive days where I'm doing something to progress the book forward. So, actually, I got to progress the book forward in one form or another, some way, tonight. So let's take a look at this. I'm going back to Scrivener, and I'm looking at where I left off. Leah is playing the long game. She knows who she is and is perfectly comfortable within her own skin. She is her company. She is her company, and her company does not exist without her, and her customers know it. She's created a strong, unique, conceptual foundation for her brand to be a thread in the fabric of her customers' lives. Customers, plural, possessive lives, that enables and encourages her to head consistently in one direction for everything she does. Realtors are a dime a dozen, comma, but a real estate advocate like Leah is once just one needed per lifetime advocate. Is there any way you'd consider her one of many? No. because she's truly one of one. One which really is my definition of what a personal brand is. All right, so I'm going to leave that. Where it is. Because it's a Friday night, end of the week. I'm going to be editing the second half podcast with Leah tomorrow. I'm sure I'm going to be inspired to write a whole couple of new paragraphs based on that episode of the podcast. So I think I'm going to put this to bed for tonight. And that's really a key thing that I'd like to talk to anybody about who is interested in writing a book. If you are truly interested in writing a book, you've got to be completely true to who you are in terms of your interest and energy. And I'll be honest with you, right now, I don't have a lot of interest in writing tonight, and I certainly don't have enough energy. And frankly, also, I've had a little bit of that fine Costco Kirkland brand Irish whiskey. So let's just say, let's not drink and drive on the keyboard. So that's where I'm going to leave it for tonight. It's a shorter episode, but that's okay because I've got plenty of longer ones that you can peruse through. Just go back to my back catalog. But since this is episode 118, 118 consecutive days of Bookward Bound, my 301-day journey from I should really do this to done, I'm okay with having a night that's a little less intense and a little bit more introspective. Let's just call it that. So consequently, I'm going to say goodnight for tonight. But I want to say thank you to you for keeping me honest and forcing me to come down here, even when I don't want to continue writing this book, because that's how a book gets written. It doesn't get written in one marathon session. It's 1,000, well, in my case, 301 little bites at the elephant that is going to get this elephant eaten and this book written. And so thank you, because you're the inspiration for me to actually get my butt in this chair and do something to move this book forward. That's it for me tonight. I'm DP Knudten for the Nonfiction Brand podcast, which comes out every Monday. This episode actually features the lovely and talented Leah Bach, who is a realtor from Vancouver, British Columbia, up there in the Great White North of Canada. And it's a really great episode. I'm going to be editing her second half episode tomorrow, as I've said several times. And that's going to be a great episode that airs on Monday. So if you want to find out just how cool Leah is, you need to check out the Nonfiction Brand podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it. Just search wherever you get your podcasts, just search Nonfiction Brand, and you're going to see my face in black and white, and you'll know it's me. So download that podcast, subscribe, refer it to others, and most of all, please, please, please help me out and review the podcast if you like it so that other people can find it. That's it for me tonight. Until tomorrow, I want to say thank you, and one other thing. Theme music. Take us on out. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm DP Knudten. Good night.